Dear students, the topic of our lecture is Law and Social Transformation Post-Independence. Now, what are the different objectives of the lecture? This lecture will primarily describe the meaning of two terms, the law and social transformation. What are the relationship between law and social transformation? How the law it has brought the social transformation, as well as how there is the evolution of new type of laws as well as amendment in the laws by the social change which is there in the society. So it will cover the relationship between the law and social transformation. It will also cover the basic theories of social transformation. All the three theories they will be covered in it. Your evolutionary theory, then the functionalist theory and the conflict theory. All these theory they will be explained in it. And lastly, we will take the major social legislations which has brought the transformation in India. So next is what is the meaning of social transformation? So social transformation it is a process which leads to the fundamental change in the society. It is a process which alters the individual's behavior as well as social status by which the society's reformation it is also there. It leads to the culture reformation as well as the transformation in the living of the society. Whenever there is a social transformation, in this process, firstly the change occur in the basic unit of the society, that is your individual. And after the change in the basic unit of the society, there is a major change in the social system also, because social system, it is the composition, the main composition of the social system are the individuals. So when there is a fundamental change in the individual, then that fundamental change, it also leads to the change in the social system. So in the process of transformation, always the society moves from the traditional structure towards the modern structure. And in the social transformation, step by step, the society it is moving towards the modernization. So it is a process by which fundamental change it is there in the society, and it leads to the development of society, and the particular society moves from the traditional or the primitive stage towards the modernization. So next is theories of social transformation. There are three basic philosophies of the social transformation, or the three basic theories of social transformation are there. First is evolutionary theory, then the second is functionalist theory, and the last is the conflict theory. So firstly we will discuss the evolutionary theory. The evolutionary theory it is based upon the Charles Darwinian principle of biological evolution. So the Darwin has given the biological evolution theory that there will be the survival of fittest, and this particular theory it is also they have made applicable, sociologists have made this theory applicable to the social change also, that the society it always moves in a specific direction. There are certain stages by which the society it passes to higher and higher level of the progression, and whenever there is a higher and higher level of the progression, uh, at the same pace the law it also develops in the society, and when the law it is also developed it leads to some cultural attitudes as well as behaviors, and these cultural attitudes and behaviors they are also reflected in the laws which are made by the people of that society. So whenever there is a development, there is a social evolution, the particular level of the society it also get progressive, and for that progressiveness there is a need of new laws, and these particular laws they are also created. For example, there are so many research and development in different society. Now, if you see the atomic energy, they are used for making the atomic bombs, and there are so many complexity in the arms and ammunitions. So, with the development in the science and technology, the laws they are also developing new type of laws of warfare as well as the laws relating to provision of the atomic weapons, as well as the laws relating to the provision of the chemical weapons, landmines, and the other things they are also included in the society. Initially, when the traditional wars are there, these type of laws they are not prevailing. So when the evolution it is there in the science and technology also, thus social norms and culture, attitudes and behaviors they also get changed, for which there is a need of new type of the legislations also, new type of the treaties also. That's why whenever there is a evolution of the society, there is a progress of the society, higher and complex laws they are also needed, and new piece of legislations they are also passed. So in the evolutionary theory, the sociologist is saying that with the social change, whenever the society it progresses from one level to the other level, the laws they also progress with the society. They are also developed with the society. So next is the thoughts under evolutionary theory. Under evolutionary theory also, there are the two type of the thoughts. The one is unilinear evolutionary theory and the second is multilinear evolutionary theory. The unilinear evolutionary theory, it is expounded by and it is also supported by Comte, Durkheim and Spencer. They have proposed this theory, and according to them, all the society they used to pass from the same sequence of the development stages, and they lead to the ultimate the progress society. So all the types of society always they goes from the primitive society and they reach up to a particular limit of modernization. So they are saying that all the society they pass through a similar linear sequence of the stage of evolution, and similarly the law also passes the similar sequence of the evolution. So the second thought is there, that is the multilinear evolutionary theory. So in case of the multilinear evolutionary theory, they are saying the social change it is not a linear process, it is a unilinear process and it moves in the different directions. So multilinear theories they observe that human society it always evolve in the different lines, and on the basis of those different lines, the lines they are created due to the difference in their resources as well as the space of the development. And similarly the law also develop at a different pace in the society. There cannot be the similar type of law development in the society also. The second theory of the social transformation, it is the functionalist theory. The functionalist theory, it is given by the Parson. And in the functionalist theory, the main emphasis it is upon the function of the law. What is the function of the law? To solve the social problems. So the Parson has explained that in a particular country, when there is a significant social problem, it leads to the temporary shift in the social order, due to which there is always a need of new type of law, and this law it is needed in order to create the equilibrium and to maintain the previous social order and tranquility. So the Parson had also given the equilibrium theory within the functionalist theory, and according to that, there is a social change. Whenever there is a social change of one aspect of society, this particular social change of one aspect it always requires the adjustment or the equilibrium in the other aspect. So whenever there is a adjustment, then in that case the equilibrium it has to be there in order to maintain the social order. And if adjustment does not occur, there will be the lack of equilibrium and the social order get threatens. So the Parson has given the equilibrium theory, and the Parson has emphasized that in order to be secure the stability and the balance in the society, there must be the new type of laws to be created, as well as there must be the new amendments which are to be introduced in the law. So according to functionalist theory, there is the function of law, that is the social problems it must be solved. So whenever there is a accrual or whenever there is a new problem in the society, those new problems in the social society they are going to be checked as well as they are going to be uh, solved by the formation of new laws as well as by the amendment in the laws. So the social problem it leads to the formation of new laws. Second is our lag law. Lag law it is the law which is made in reaction to the social problem or in reactions to the social conflicts which already existing in the society. Whenever there is a particular conflict in the society and there is a need or emergence of new type of principles or the rules to regulate those type of situations, in those situations new effective laws as well as uh, new amendments they are brought into consideration. All these new legislations and the amendments they give rise to the term lag law. Lag law means which is lagging behind. Firstly there will be the social change or the social transformation, and in order to equalize it, in order to cope it, there will be the formation of law to tackle it. So these type of laws which are the outcome of the social problems or the conflicts, that is known as lag law. So next we will discuss what are the types of law. So on the basis of the social transformation or the relation of law and the social transformation, the law it is always talked or categorized into two ways. The one is lead law and the second is lag law. So the first here we are discussing the lead law. So lead law is the law which determines the nature as well as the directions in which the society it is going to be moved. So according to Roscoe, the law it is always perceived as an instrument of social engineering. There is always a law which will develop the particular nature of the society, which will lead to the change in the society also. There are certain particular norms which are set up, and on the basis of these principles and norms, the human conduct as well as human practices they are also changed. And when for the large period of time these norms they are followed and human practices they are changed, it leads to the human transformation also. So lead law is the law which is formulated first and then it leads to the social change. So in order to understand what is the relationship of law and social transformation, now we will take the example of some major post-independence legislation, and then we will see that what type of change these legislations they have brought in the Indian society. So firstly, I will discuss the Constitution of India, that how by the making of Constitution of India, the machinery of the particular society as well as the other changes they are brought in the Indian society. Second, we will discuss the Hindu laws, how the Hindu laws they have reformed the Hindu customs and what are the major changes they have brought in the uh, Hindu society. The third is Protection of Civil Right Act 1955, and the fourth law which we are going to take, that is Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act. After that, we will discuss the Muslim Women of Right on Divorce Act 1986. Then we will take Right to Information Act 2005, and we will discuss how these acts they have actually changing the Indian society. Then we will discuss the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, NREGA Act of 2005. And lastly, we will take the Right of Person Disability Act 2016. So all these acts we will discuss and we will check that how it has transformed the Indian society. The model of social transformation in India, it was given in the Constitution of India itself. The Constitution of India is the highest legal political document for the Indian government. It contains the statement of the rights of the people. It lays down the structure of the powers and obligation of the ruler towards the ruled. It emphasized on the parliamentary system. It has introduced the parliamentary system in India. The democratic system it is introduced, democratic form of government it was introduced. The constitution it has emphasized on the justice, freedom and equality. So constitution it is the main instrument of social change in India after independence, and it has brought the main governmental structure in India, how the function will be there, what will be the different organs of the government, what are the officials there, how they will be appointed, and what will be their powers and what will be their function. Then after independence, the Hindu laws they are made, and these laws they have totally transformed the Hindu society. They have reformed the Hindu customs. Initially, the Ambedkar they have introduced the comprehensive Hindu code bill in the parliament in the year 1951, but there is a lot of opposition to the Hindu code, and due to which he has also resigned as a law minister within 7 months. But when there is the first Lok Sabha election, then Nehru government in 1952 again they revived the Hindu reforms agenda and they introduced the bill. Though after the introduction of these bills, the major Hindu laws they are formulated. The first is Hindu Marriage Act 1955, then Hindu Succession Act 1956, then Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act of 1956 was passed, and lastly one more act they have passed in the Hindu code, that is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956. So all these laws they have totally reformed the Hindu customs. The Hindu Marriage Act 1955, it has eradicated the evil of polygamy which is prevailing in the Hindu society. So if there is any bigamous marriage, then it is declared as void after the passing of Hindu Marriage Act 1955. It is a very progressive legislation. It has also introduced the concept of registration of the Hindu marriages also in order to create a legal document of a valid Hindu marriage. Along with that, the provisions of maintenance are also added. And if you see the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, this is the only legislation which is talking about the maintenance to the husband also, that in case if the husband is not capable to take care of himself, and the wife is taking care of the husband, then at the time of the divorce the husband can seek the maintenance from the wife also. As well, the different type of the marriages, they are classified. Three classification they have made: the valid marriage, your Hindu void marriage, and the voidable marriage. So this is the major changes which is brought by the Hindu marriage. They have totally legalized the concept of the registration of marriage, as well as they have made the marriages which are void ab initio. For example, the second marriage is there, as well as whenever there is a marriage between the same spinda relationship or degree of probated relationship. So all these type of marriages, they are declared void under Hindu Marriage Act. And some of the different other uh, social security law, it is also introduced by Hindu Marriage Act. The step it is taken in order to preserve the marriage also in the form of restitution of conjugal right as well as judicial separation. These two steps they are introduced, these two your sections, they are introduced in the Hindu marriage in order to preserve the marriage. For example, if the parties, they are in a hurry to take a divorce in a heat of the moment, then in that case the judge can order, then they can have the restitution of conjugal right, or they can also ask for the judicial separation. And within the by introducing these concepts, a reasonable time is given to the parties, that they can decide within that reasonable time whether they actually want to get separated or not. So Hindu Marriage Act has also introduced certain provisions or the phenomena for the preservation of the marriage also. So these are the major changes which are brought by the Hindu Marriage Act. So the second is Hindu Succession Act. So Hindu Succession Act has also transformed the Hindu society. It has introduced the concept of the your Kopashnari. What are the Kopashnar? What are the rights of Kopashnari? Legally, those concepts, they are acknowledged, as well as the succession of the male as well as female property. Both they have elaborately given in the Hindu Succession Act. They have in the Hindu Succession Act, the legal heirs they are described. Who are the legal heirs? They will entitle to the property in case there is a death of a Hindu male or female who dies intestate. Dies intestate means who has not made the will of their self-acquired property. Then in that case, there will be the different classes of the heirs who are entitled to get the property. And the Hindu Succession Act has also elaborated what is the rule of distribution of property among the legal heirs. Every concept, it is described in the Hindu Succession Act. Now the third law which is there, that is Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act of 1956. So this act has firstly they have declared the natural guardianship as an invalid concept, because there are so many things which are there in the society. There is a prevailing evil in the society that your natural guardian, after the death of the parents, they used to take the benefit of their position, and they used to enrich themselves illegally from the property of the minor children. So the natural guardianship concept, it was totally discarded by the Hindu Minority and the Guardianship Act, and only the legal guardian as are the legal guardian and the de facto guardian, and the legal guardian and the guardian appointed by the court, it is declared as a valid guardian under Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act. So it is also a progressive legislation which has eradicated the evil of the natural guardianship in the society. And the last is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. This is also a very good legislation. It has given the rights to the woman to take a son or a daughter in the adoption. Before the passing of Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, the women, they are not entitled to adopt the son or daughter for themselves. The rights in the Hindu society, that is with the male only. So the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act has equalized the right of adoption to the men as well as women, that both the father as well as mother, they are having the equal right to take the children for themselves in adoption. So it has exhaustively given the essential conditions. What are the essential conditions to be followed for a valid legal adoption? What will be the formalities? All the things they are given in the Hindu Adoption Act. And the one more thing, that is Hindu Maintenance Act. The Hindu Maintenance has elaborated the different provisions which are there for the maintenance of the wife, children and aged and infirm parents, as well as the widow daughter-in-law. So these are the, you can say, progressive legislations which has totally changed the Hindu society, as well as different Hindu customs which are not good enough for the society. They are totally reformed by passing of the these four major legislations, that is Hindu Marriage Act 1955, Hindu Succession Act 1976, Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956, and the last is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. The next is Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955. So in the before 1955, there is one more evil in the Indian society, that is untouchability. There is a stratification of the Indian society into four different type of caste, out of which the lower caste, it is untouchable. They are not even permitted to enter into temples, and there is lot of discrimination against them in the society. So one major social progressive legislation, it was passed in the year 1955, that is Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955. And by the passing of this act, the untouchability, it is now totally prohibited and it is penalized. And any person who is indulged in such activity, they are uh, subjected to the punishment. So this is a progressive legislation which is made in order to check the untouchability in the India. One more legislation, it is passed by the Indian Parliament to check the atrocities against the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. That is the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. This act, it is also a progressive legislation, and the main objective behind the passing of this act, it is to help the social inclusion of the Dalits in the society. The various type of offences which committed against the Dalits in the society, they are categorized as an offence in this act, and the minimum as well as maximum punishment that is given in it. The minimum punishment for such type of atrocities, that is the 6 month, and the maximum punishment which is prescribed in this act, that is up to 5 years. This is a very progressive legislation in which different type of acts against the Dalits, they are included as an offense in order to make a social change so that they can become a part of the society. So the next progressive legislation which is passed by the Indian Parliament, that is Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986. This legislation, it was passed in order to provide certain rights to the Muslim women who are divorced. For example, if there is a Muslim woman and she has observed the Iddat period also, but she is not able to maintain herself and even she has not married any other person, then in that case, this particular act is provides the right to maintenance to the Muslim woman also. This act, it was passed in order to nullify the effect of the Shah Banu case. So one more legislation, it was passed by the Indian Parliament, that is Right to Information Act 2005. So Right to Information Act 2005, it is basically made in order to secure the fundamental right of speech and expression to the Indian citizens. And the fundamental right of speech and expression, it is provided under your Article 19. So the Supreme Court, it has upheld that the right to speech and expression, it is not limited to have a right to speak. It also provide, or it also goes a bit further. That is, it is extended towards the right to information also. That when the person is having the information, then only they can have a vision and they can write they can exercise their right to speech accordingly. So the Right to Information Act, it was passed under Article 19, and it gives the right that every person, they can inspect, document and the records of the public authorities. They can take the notes, they can take the certified copies of the documents and records after paying a nominal fee. They can take the certified samples of the material, as well as they can obtain the printouts, or they can take the material in the electronic version. So next is National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. This is a piece of legislation which is a part of Indian labor law and the social security laws, and it is a social security measure in order to guarantee the right to work to all the citizens, to provide the work to the people who are living in the rural areas. So one more legislation, it was passed by the Indian Parliament, and it provides the uh, equal enjoyment rights to the person which are disability in India. And the name of the legislation is the Right of the Person Disability Act 2016. Under this act, the appropriate government, it is having a duty to ensure that the persons with a disability, they can enjoy the right to equality, life with dignity, and respect to their own integrity equally with the other people who are not disabled. So the government is now bound to take step and to utilize all the resources in order to provide the capacity building to these disabled people, so that they can also enjoy their life equally as that of others. This particular act, it was passed because India, it is a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disability. That's why this act, it was passed, and this act, it provides the rights to the disabled person so that they can be acknowledged equally in the different facets of the society.